In a world where temptation meets unimaginable wealth, a billionaire presents a jaw-dropping offer. $1 million for a single night with a young married couple's wife, setting the stage for a gripping exploration of love, trust, and life-altering choices. David, an architect, found a job in a small firm while Diana worked in real estate. In their spare time, David worked on their dream house project. Despite occasional disagreements, they always resolved their differences. Despite their limited finances, Diana appreciated David's passion for architecture. Diana managed to find land by the sea in Santa Monica for David's project. Initially, money was tight, and things got worse when a recession hit, causing Diana's sales to plummet and David to lose his job. Struggling to pay their bills, they faced the threat of losing their home. Diana worried about their situation, while David remained hopeful, looking for another job. He assured her that everything would be fine, even if it meant putting their project on hold and borrowing $5,000 from his father, though it still fell short. Desperate, David suggested going to Las Vegas to gamble their remaining funds, and surprisingly, their luck turned around dramatically. While David continued with his bets, Diana wandered around the casino and found herself in a luxurious area. There, she crossed paths with billionaire John Gage, who noticed her sampling chocolates from the reception. Intrigued, he suggested buying her some expensive dresses, but she declined, not wanting to be seen as an easy target. She returned to David, who was on a winning streak, and shared a passionate moment with him, although she couldn't help but feel John's eyes on her from afar. Back in their room, David excitedly calculated their progress, realizing they had reached half of their financial goal in just an hour. Diana expressed her love for him, emphasizing that money wasn't what mattered. They spent the night in each other's arms, surrounded by bills. However, their luck took a turn for the worse the next day as they faced more losses than wins while gambling. They resorted to flipping a coin to decide whether to continue or cut their losses and return home. In the end, they chose to keep betting. David placed his hopes on all red, making it his final chance to avoid going home empty-handed. As the ball spun, he switched his bet from black to red, but fate had other plans, and the outcome was black, leaving the couple with nothing and Diana in tears. As they strolled through the casino, David and Diana stumbled upon a high-stakes table where a single golden chip held a value of $10,000, and there they found John engrossed in a game. The billionaire approached David, asking if he could borrow Diana for luck. David deferred to Diana, who initially declined the invitation, but David persuaded her, thinking it might be an enjoyable experience. John cautiously joined Diana at the table, but luck was not on their side, as they lost $100,000 in a single round, leaving Diana feeling far from fortunate. To everyone's astonishment, John, seemingly unfazed by the loss, made some calls, and the casino workers handed him $1 million in gold chips, impressing those around. They shifted to a game of dice, with John encouraging Diana to bet it all, needing a roll of 7 or 11 to win. Against the odds, the roll ended in a 7, prompting celebrations. John then formally introduced himself to David and offered them a luxurious stay at the casino hotel that night, assuring them not to worry about a thing. Overwhelmed by their opulent suite at the hotel, Diana received a gift from John, the same dress she had tried on when they first met. They were also informed of John's upcoming party and extended an invitation, leaving David excited and Diana a bit hesitant. At the party, the couple relaxed, while John found it challenging to divert his gaze from Diana. As the party drew to a close, they engaged in a heated debate about whether money could truly influence people's decisions. Despite John's wealth and success, he couldn't help but envy the genuine relationship between Diana and David, with Diana insisting that emotions couldn't be bought. John then posed a hypothetical scenario. What if he were to offer David $1 million for a night with Diana? Initially, the couple considered it a joke, but as John pressed the matter, they grew reluctant. Eventually, John conceded that they had won the argument, acknowledging that money couldn't purchase everything, and he excused himself, leaving them alone. The couple spent a restless night, unable to shake off the weight of John's proposal. Doubts crept in, and gradually, they began to entertain the idea that the money could help them escape their financial burdens and fulfill their dreams. They rationalized that it would merely be Diana sacrificing her body, not her heart, and decided never to broach the subject again after it happened. David reached out to his lawyer, Jeremy, and explained the situation. To his surprise, Jeremy shared that in such a situation, he might have even considered the offer twice for the money. Jeremy arranges a meeting with John to discuss the legal terms of the agreed-upon night, with John's commitment to pay, even if the arrangement doesn't go as planned. After their discussion, the night begins for Diana and John, who displayed no rush to commence their evening. Meanwhile, Jeremy's attempt to console David has the opposite effect, leaving him feeling increasingly distressed. Eventually, he decides to rush up to the hotel to find his wife. Upon arriving, David discovers that Diana and John have already departed in a helicopter. He rushes to the rooftop, watching as the helicopter slowly disappears from view. Diana and John land on a private yacht, where Diana is greeted with an elegant dress and a lavish setting. She prepares herself and finds John waiting for her on the deck, where he inquires about the decision-making process. Diana asserts that it was a mutual choice, but John remains uncertain, expressing his reluctance to share her if she were his wife. Diana points out his privileged position, to which John implies that his desire for her is fueled by the challenge of winning her over. John proposed a simple solution to Diana. Flip a coin. If it landed heads, they would proceed with their evening. If it landed tails, they'd back out and return home. Fate favored them with a heads, and John began to kiss her, assuring her that nothing would happen against her will. The following morning, Diana returned to the hotel and found David distraught at the foot of the bed. Tears flowed as they embraced passionately, believing that the worst was behind them and that, with time, they would overcome the situation. The couple started planning to resume their dream house payments, but they discovered that they were 2 months behind and the house had already been sold to someone else. They were frustrated, arguing that they hadn't been properly notified, but it turned out that the bank had attempted to contact them and their debt extension had expired just 2 days prior. David's anger flared and he vented his frustration at the office, feeling betrayed. Back at home, David stumbled upon a matchbook with the name Griffin. He questioned Diana, who initially refused to discuss it. At his insistence, Diana reluctantly revealed that it was the name of the boat she had traveled on with John that night in Santa Barbara. She made it clear she didn't want to discuss it any further and left David alone. While in bed, David curiously sifts through Diana's purse, discovering a photo of them from their younger days and a note bearing John Gage's phone number. In the living room, Diana is caught ending a call, and when David inquires about the caller, she claims it was an unsuccessful attempt to reach her mother. Their mutual distrust becomes evident, and neither holds back, prompting Diana to contemplate a significant gesture to make amends. Determined to buy back their land, Diana approaches the original buyer with a better offer, only to discover that John is the new owner. Undaunted, Diana decides to confront him, heading to an upscale restaurant to express her anger and accuse him of being a thief. John reveals that the price to reclaim the property is $2 million and proposes that she work for him. Although Diana professes her hatred for him, John senses that her emotions may not be as clear-cut. Diana returns home with a bottle of wine, prompting David to inquire about her whereabouts. She confesses that she had been with John Gage, causing David to slam the bottle into the fridge, fearing that she still harbors feelings for him. Diana reveals that John had purchased their property and was attempting to recover it. When David inquires about what happened on the boat, she responds that nothing she says will satisfy him. He then questions if John was skilled, to which Diana affirms. David's anger escalates, accusing her of selfishness and alleging that she was attracted to John from the beginning. Seeking solace, he turns to Jeremy. However, Diana contacts Jeremy and asks him to convey to David that she no longer desires the money and that he can keep it. In the absence of David, Diana falls into a melancholic state for the ensuing weeks. One day, Diana's boss tasks her with closing a deal for a $10 million property, and once again, the prospective buyer is John Gage. Diana initially declines, but her boss warns her that refusal would result in her termination. Diana shows John various properties, some exceeding $30 million, but his focus remains on trying to seduce her. Despite Diana's repeated rejections, John remains persistent. Meanwhile, David leads a quieter and more orderly life, tending to the house as Diana had always wanted. Diana takes up teaching citizenship classes as a hobby. During one of these classes, John unexpectedly appears, drawing everyone's attention and openly praising Diana in front of the students. They both visit John's residence, where he confides in Diana about an obsession he had with a girl he saw on the subway many years ago. His shyness prevented him from speaking to her at the time, so he waited at the same spot for 2 weeks, but she never returned. John reflects that it was 30 years ago, and he doesn't want to repeat the same mistake with Diana. He invites her to a dance, and their evening ends with a kiss before she departs. Back at home, David reminisces about the good times he had with Diana while tearing up pictures of her. On a rainy night, he decides to confront John and Diana, who are preparing to attend the theater. David confronts John, suggesting that he should change his emblem to that of a cuckoo bird because he intrudes into others' nests and destroys families. David had believed their relationship was unbreakable, but the confrontation ends with him unsuccessfully attempting to strike John and falling to the ground. John's chauffeur takes David back home, where he painstakingly tapes together Diana's photographs and hangs them on the wall. The next morning, David notices the scale model of his dream house and continues his job search at a university, impressing with his extensive resume. He inspires young architects in his class, motivating them to strive for excellence. After class, Jeremy approaches David and delivers the news that Diana wants a divorce. Diana and John attend a charity auction for an animal sanctuary, bidding up to $40,000 to support the hippo cause. However, just as they were about to secure the donation, someone else swoops in with a higher offer at the last moment. To everyone's astonishment, David unexpectedly enters the bidding, offering a staggering $1 million. With the bidding concluded, David approaches Diana's table, and John tactfully excuses himself to give them some privacy, even remaining there when rain starts to fall. David expresses his regret for what happened in Vegas, and, in the end, acknowledges that John isn't any better than him. He just has more money. After signing the necessary papers, David departs, leaving Diana alone with John, who watches them thoughtfully from a distance. The new couple remains silent on the way home, and when Diana suggests they discuss everything, John deflects her by asking the chauffeur if he has ever seen him so happy. The chauffeur responds negatively, and John implies that he has engaged in such practices several times before, insinuating his familiarity with similar situations involving significant sums of money. The chauffeur's act is so convincing that Diana requests him to stop the car. She shares a kiss with John and expresses her gratitude, and in return, John gives her the same coin they had flipped on the night they were together. When the chauffeur questions John's actions, John explains that he did it to bring closure because he realized Diana would never look at him in the same way she looked at David. On a bus ride, Diana notices that the coin John gave her has heads on both sides, prompting a smile. She heads to Paradise Cove, the very place where David had proposed to her 7 years ago, to reminisce about happier times. To her surprise, she finds David there as well and quietly takes a seat behind him. Diana catches David off guard by confessing that she still loves him, and they both reach out, holding hands, ready to begin anew. Thanks for tuning in. Don't forget to subscribe, hit the bell icon, and stay connected with us.